My experience was just like, you give kids a problem and you give them some tools and you make it fun, and they're totally on board. Because a lot of these insights that I got from speaking in schools was like, okay, so if you make it like easy, fun, and you make it rewarding, then people take action. And so then it was like, okay, how can we apply these insights to larger systems like the economy or like, business or policy? That was kind of the driving insight, which led me into like a lot of research into like monetary systems, which obviously is one way we make it rewarding. Essentially, how can we design contexts where the sustainable choice is just the logical one, it's the easy one. We started to look at like, okay, well, what are the two main kind of incentive systems that humans respond to? And we were like, well, our reputation, and the other one is like our wallet, right? Like money and reputation. And then we started looking at the forces which shape those contexts. And we were like, okay, well, our money is really all based on debt. So it has this growth imperative tied to it. And also money in the bank now is worth way more than money tomorrow. We basically took that principle and then we evolved it into native squared, which helps people and companies protect nature a square at a time, investing in nature, easy, fun, and rewarding. And that's sort of how we landed on native squared.
Hello, beautiful SANUSPLANET community and everyone who's listening today to this podcast episode. And I'm really, really, really happy and feel quite honored to have found the moment that we can interview this really amazing person. When you're watching the SANUSPLANET podcast on YouTube, you can see the picture already. And if you cannot see it, I just tell you a little bit about my guest today. It's Rob Cobbold. And Rob Cobbold is the CEO and the co-founder of Native. And we will talk today about a lot of beautiful projects that Native is creating. Native partners with indigenous people, let's say indigenous guardians to protect the planet, and offers also people and companies to protect and restore rainforests, mangroves, and coral reefs around the world, and many, many, many more things that we will hear today. Let's say one square at a time. Native Square, it's kind of the let's say slogan, maybe you can say. And I'm really happy to be allowed to interview you, Rob, today. It's really a big honor. I get to know about you from Jasper Wilkins, and Jasper, I found him on Instagram. So we connected on Instagram and we have seen, okay, we have so many things in common. We have to get connected. We have to see how can we support one another and find out more about each other's projects. And I have seen we have so many things in common because so many projects that you are working on, we also work on, but in a different way. But yeah, let's see where this podcast episode brings us to. So for everyone who's listening, first of all, welcome, Rob Cobbold. It's amazing that you're here. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Yeah, no, just to echo that, we had a great conversation before this, and yeah, it's really like, it feels like we've been feeling after the same solutions and have come up with a lot of the same kind of insights and ideas. So yeah, like respect back to you and SANUSPLANET as well. We love what you guys are about, and really pleased to be here.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. That's always good to hear when my guests also know a little bit more about our project. So you have checked out what we do, and we have so many things in common. So we will talk about that soon. But first of all, Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself. But first, not about what you're doing today. Let's go a little bit back in time. Tell us a little bit about where have you been before you became CEO and co-founder of Native? What have you done before? What was your life about? So what was it about before you have become a guardian for nature yourself?
Yeah. So really my career was defined by a massive spiritual awakening I had when I was 21. It was quite like a spontaneous, I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't doing lots of meditation, or I wasn't reading about Zen or anything like this. So it was just a spontaneous flash of awakening. And
but nothing happened that put the flash on you or something, but it just came to you.
It was really a question that I asked myself. I'd had just like an amazing experience of like at a festival just all weekend, having a really good time. And then the question was like, it was essentially like, who am I? I mean, really, it was like I had sort of like a weird thought of like, oh, don't let all this lovely stuff that's happened like go to your head, basically. Don't let it like, like, don't be arrogant about it or something. And then the question was like, who is the one being arrogant, sort of thing? Or like, what's the, do you know what I mean? Like the duality, like, who's the I behind the experience? Like, there's just an experience. It's not
Yeah.
an I behind that. And then
Mm.
like that was the sort of trigger. But anyway, that's a sort of long other story. And I led me down a path where I'm now like a practicing Sufi and whatever. But one of the things that came out of it was this kind of dawning realization that like actually I'm here to be of service. And so my career has just been one sort of long attempt to answer that question.
Mhm.
Um, so I started off by speaking in schools about climate change. I love public speaking. I love young people. So that kind of made sense. And I would travel all around the country for two different charities, like speaking about different local and global issues, including climate change, but also other things like homelessness or poverty or
Mhm.
food poverty or whatever. Um, and basically inspiring young people to make the world a better place, which was super rewarding and a lovely job to do. And like it was, yeah, it was such a fun sort of job to have done for 2 years.
I just jump in
Um,
shortly because also here we have so much in common because that's how I started my activism as well. I gave about 1,400 speeches and workshops and stuff in schools mainly. So I love that. And I understand what you're talking about because the kids or the young people, the young generation, they are so much, I don't know how to call it, but, and I don't want to offend anyone, but they're so much more open, so much more into the topic. They're listening, they're interested. It's their future we're talking here about. And that's why they also feel when you tell them something, they fall in love with the world and then they feel that you mean it for real. You're here to help them, to support them with information. And when they feel that, I feel, wow, that's when the reward comes back, right? I mean, how did you experience that?
no, no, exactly the way you described it. I always said like if anyone is cynical about humanity, they should just go and watch a primary school assembly where they talk about climate change.
Yes.
And like all the kids are like,
Yeah.
what? Like we need to plant trees like
Yes, we
immediately,
need to
like
do something.
let's do something. And they're like, well, we can do it. It's like they just immediate like it was funny because I then did like a lot of analysis on for a think tank separately on climate anxiety.
Mm,
And it was this mismatch because I was looking at all this data and being like, okay, this is a problem. But like when I was in schools, I didn't see any of that. I didn't see
yeah,
anyone going like, oh God, I'm so anxious. What do we do? They were just like,
yeah,
let's do something. Like
yeah.
I'm game. Let's do it.
Mm,
That so I didn't see any anxiety, and I didn't like yeah. So maybe I suppose that's something that gathers over time, right? This was the first time they were hearing about it, or they knew a little bit, but like whereas like I suppose maybe if you're like really passionately committed and you're working on it for a long time, then of course like you really like learn about the gravity of the situation. But
mm,
my experience was just like you give kids a problem and you give them some tools and you make it fun,
mhm.
and they're totally on board.
Yeah, the fun thing. That's, I think, one of the most important ingredients that make things also work out in the long, probably not just for kids. I mean, we can go in that topic later. I'll let you finish first your where you're coming from story. But also, I think the tools that we provide someone to be part of the change, these tools have to be, we have to think about them very good. When they are good and make fun and support people to really love to create some change, then it's definitely providing lasting change. Otherwise, not.
100% agree. And, I think that's been the problem, hasn't it, with the sort of climate movement, is that it can feel quite technical and abstract. Like we sort of end up talking about like tons of carbon and parts per million CO2 in the atmosphere. And it's like, well,
Nobody
that's not fun.
understands it.
No one
Yeah.
understands, no one cares, it's all weird. And then like in addition, it's like obviously laden with doom. I mean, like accurately, like I mean, there is like if you look at the facts, it is quite devastating, but like
Yeah.
that just switches people off because they're like,
Mhm.
oh, it's so big, I can't do anything about it. Whereas like if you can find a way to not trivialize it, but make it like bite-sized manageable, but also cool, like make it cool to be like sustainable.
Mhm.
That's where it all comes from. I mean, like, like ultimately like there's whole sort of like communities where like it's just not very cool to drive a like expensive sports car or a massive SUV, and that's far more effective than any kind of like finger wagging or tax. It's like
Hmm.
you know that's
Attacking never works. I mean, people block, people close, people don't want to listen. It makes sense because you don't want to have anyone pointing a finger on you, telling you what to do, even if you know it would be better maybe to change something, but you don't want to hear it from anyone else, right? Especially not from strangers, and they tell me how I should live my life, and then people get frustrated because that's how we react. And I think if we provide the tools and alternatives, that's the most important thing, alternatives, then it's getting interesting. And that's exactly also something that you are working on with native. So let's go back to the first main question. Where do you come from? How did you get to the point to say, whoa, I want to create something more. I want to become the CEO of Native. I want to create something like Native. And then later we will talk about what Native even is and what you do. But how did it
Yeah.
get there?
Well, it's sort of very related to this question, right? Because a lot of these insights that I got from speaking in schools was like, okay, so if you make it like easy, you make it fun, and you make it rewarding, then people take action. And so then it was like, okay, how can we apply these systems to, or apply these insights to larger systems like the economy, or like, business, or, or policy, all these like kind of, or, how can we apply these same insights? And so that was kind of the driving insight, which led me into like a lot of research into like monetary systems, which obviously is one way we make it rewarding. But like, and just essentially, how can we design contexts where the sustainable choice is just the logical one, it's the easy one,
Mm-hmm.
rather than all this finger wagging of trying to push the boulder uphill. Let's just like create a pathway where it can roll downhill.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we started to look at like, okay, well, what are the two main kind of incentive systems that humans respond to? And we were like, well, our reputation is one, really important. And the other one is like our wallet, right? Like money and reputation. And then we started looking at the forces which shape those contexts. And we were like, okay, well, our money is really all based on debt. Like, so it has this growth imperative tied to it. And also, money in the bank now is worth way more than money tomorrow, because either because I've got a debt or I can get interest.
Mm-hmm.
And so all these like debt and interest based mechanisms are just like, they're really incentivizing us to grab as much as we can now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also not they're not circular, right? They're sort of about exponential growth. So like, these are really incentivizing like all the wrong types of behaviors from a sustainability point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, like, the rails, the people who own the rails, like, Visa or MasterCard, like, they're also like making just insane amounts of money from just having the infrastructure, which is like, couldn't we be channeling that somewhere more productively?
This is amazing that you say that, because that's exactly one of the most things that we have in common. We'll talk about later, but this is so like everyone who's listening today, everyone who knows Sanus Planet, who knows what we do, you will understand why I point that out, because that's exactly what we are doing. And that's exactly what Rob is doing as well. So listen carefully, because that gives you a lot of insights. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I mean, yeah, we just, you weren't kidding. We do have a lot of areas of interest in common. Um, the other one is like people's reputation, right? So people care about their reputation, and yet like the sort of one of the main ways that we're like mediating human reputation is via social media, which is again built on these kind of growth sort of like imperatives, where really all they're interested is engagement, and they're not really like designed to bring people together. They're also like designed to kind of polarize and like just gain like, so we were like, can we redesign these things so that money is there to incentivize people for doing good things for the planet? Can we do that? And can we design a social media platform where actually it rewards you for doing good things for the planet? So just literally that, making it easy, making it fun, making it rewarding. And that was the insight which kind of underpinned the Beach Collective. And we had this like currency, which kind of not too dissimilar from SANUSPLANET, which funded beach cleans and mangrove restoration every time you used it. And then we had this social platform called Beach Action, where you could do something good for the planet and you could earn the currency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sort of eventually led to, we had this sort of, the map was area based. So it was like you would tie the actions to particular squares.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realized that that kind of tangibility and transparency was like badly lacking in carbon markets as well. So we basically took that principle and then we evolved it into Native Squared, which helps people and companies protect nature a square at a time, trying to make it kind of still applying those same principles. So designing the sort of marketplace in such a way that it's really in companies' interest to do good. And if they protect X amount of squares of rainforest, they get credit for that. Like, you can look at the map and everyone can see, oh, there's this huge area of rainforest that MPB have protected as one of our partners.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone can look at that and they can see that. And so they gain like visibility and exposure and they enhance reputation. So just using those same and then also a monetary sense as well. So like these squares will become tradable in time, like, and we can kind of tack on different kind of like value to these squares, because it's not just the carbon, it's also the biodiversity, it's also the social impact, also future environmental services. They're all contained within that asset that you've bought, that environmental asset, which is the native square. And so just using those same insights of like trying to make investing in nature easy, fun, and rewarding. And that's sort of how we landed on Native Squared.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It sounds so amazing because I really feel and understand what you're doing and what you're planning to do as well, like in the future. Because I also think that if we really mean it for real with the change we want to see, then we have to become the part of those who are doing something, right? We have to become the hope that we want to see in the world, but also we have to become part of it, not just as individuals, but also as companies, if we have a company. And I think today no company can just not care and not give anything back. It's just not possible anymore. You have to give something back. So why not connecting to people like you, to people that are giving, creating the change we need, or helping also the indigenous community to create the change we need? And why not supporting that with a company? And the opposite side, the companies gain something back always, as well, visibility, as well an image. If it's about the image, yeah, let it be about the image, okay. But the companies will know and get to know more about these topics, so they will get, let's say, grow into the giving back and doing something good world, and they will learn with it, they will grow with it, even if it's at the beginning just for the image. That happens a lot. There's a lot of greenwashing projects in the world, and people and companies like to use a lot of strange things that not always make the sense. How do you prevent that? Or how do you help the companies to understand your project is not a greenwashing project? That's always a big question. I think there's a lot of greenwashing going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like, again, this is such an interesting area, because like, I think sometimes there's this feeling of like, oh, well, companies should just do this because they should, and it's like, look, that's not how companies work. It's not really how people work as well. Like, obviously we do have these like intrinsic like motivations to do good. And like people within these large companies will have that too, but it's also just like, actually, like, our reputation, like gossip, the reason why humans gossip is precisely this, to basically mean that like, oh, if someone's done something great for the village, then we all find out about it. Meanwhile, this other guy has just ripped me off, and so no one's going to go to his garage next week. You know what I mean? Like, humans are so successful as a species because we've developed these mechanisms which effectively like reward pro-social behavior and punish costly behavior. So it's like, what makes us think that that's not going to be a useful lever when it comes to companies? Like, it is. Like, and this is like where the greenwashing thing is this strange double-edged sword. Is like, we don't want companies to take small action and then claim it's enormous. Like, greenwashing is a problem when companies make dodgy claims off the back of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. That's what pisses us off. We don't mind if companies say, oh, I've just protected a little bit of rainforest, sorry, that's all we can do. Like, that's not what we consider greenwashing. Greenwashing is when they make these outlandish claims off the back of it, which are much more than like what they're actually doing. That's what greenwashing is. But at the moment, it's like, any company that like tries to take action for nature, or like, like maybe like buys carbon credits, but like, essentially like it's an evolving space, mistakes have been made. Like, sometimes there's like active corruption and bad stuff, but quite often companies are just doing their best. They're feeling their way in this, and no one's an expert. And like, as soon as there's any kind of like error or malpractice, everyone just yells greenwashing. It's like, well, that's not creating a context which is incentivizing companies to invest in nature. It's making them scared, and it's making them not want to. Like, yes, we have to call out like egregious abuses, but I think like a lot of the problem comes when they make sort of just dodgy claims off the back of it, which is like, goes back to this carbon neutral thing, which is like, that is a weird claim to make. Like, oh, we are now completely blameless.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. It's not possible for an individual. It's not possible for a company. And like, that is the kind of thing that makes people go, this is absolute bullshit. And like, it's just irritating, because it's not the only way that companies can protect nature. They don't have to tie it to this kind of dubious, we're completely squeaky clean type of claim. Like, no one's squeaky clean, and that's not the burden. We're not expecting you to be squeaky clean. We just want you to take some action. And if you do, let's make sure we champion that. We're like, great, they've done this cool thing. And I think just to round it off, I think that's the other issue with like carbon markets and net zero is like, like if a company says they're carbon neutral, people just roll their eyes. Like carbon
Mm.
doesn't mean anything to people.
Mm.
It's not no one got excited about sequestering a ton of carbon. Like I've never seen one. I don't know what it is. I can't even like smell it. Like
Mm.
it's hard to think of anything in the whole universe that is less engaging and less inspiring than a ton of odorless gas.
Mm.
And yet when you say to people, how much do you think it costs to protect this much rainforest? Like literally hold out your arms, that's the size of a native square.
Mhm.
They say like $20,000, $50,000 because it's intrinsically meaningful to them. It means a lot to them.
Yeah.
And it's hard to accuse a company of greenwashing when they can literally point to a map and say, no, look at the rainforest that is there because of us.
Mm.
Like, or look at this like area of coral reefs that we've like helped like regrow. Like
Yeah.
that tangibility, it does bust a lot of these greenwashing claims because like, or greenwashing accusations, because you can see it on a map. And
Mm.
it's just like, it's just a shame that we've gone so far down this route of like kind of left brain market abstraction of dealing in these like abstract carbon tons, which like, of course, it's going to make people be like, this feels like bullshit because it just doesn't mean anything to people.
Mm.
And then the claims
Yeah.
companies make off the back of that are inherently flawed, where it just doesn't have to be that way. There's a much more tangible, transparent, kind of real way that we can go about this, which is going to serve nature and is
Mhm.
going to serve the companies who invest in nature much more effectively.
Yeah, and win-win-win situations, like where everybody sees, okay, it's we don't just give money and have a good feeling. We give money because we want to create a change, and then we receive in return a good feeling as well. And that's a beautiful, beautiful way because everybody wins from it when we protect our world. Nobody loses. That's the most important thing. And I think we need many, many more win-win-win situations in this world because that's what the last years didn't happen that much. A few just gained money. Money was just about money. Okay. I had in my mind about the money topic. Let's talk about that shortly. I had in my mind money is a bad thing and people with a lot of money, they do stupid things. And like that was a little bit my mindset when I was an activist and when I was running around as an activist doing a lot of projects. I have seen how many people are doing bad things with money, yes, but I have also seen people that are doing good things with money. So money is not the problem. The way we treat it, the way we use it, that's the problem, or can be the problem. But money can do so much good. How was or is your point of view on money? Because I know as well, and let's talk about about that situation, but also with Beach Collective, you created the cryptocurrency that is giving back. How did you think about money? How do you think today? Did it change on in some moment? How do you look at it? And why did you go into the crypto world with your project?
Yeah. Yeah, so I studied sustainable exchange with Professor Jem Bendell at the University of Cumbria in sort of 2016. And he had this nice quote, which is like, money is a social design, which then designs the social. So it's like, it's two
Mhm.
important things there. Like, number one, like we actually designed it. And like our current money, which we call fiat currencies, euros, dollars, pounds, they're designed in a very specific way on very specific principles that are very historically specific, like that this is not how money has always operated. And that in turn then constrains the types of things that money can and can't do. It sort of constrains the type of society that can and can't emerge, which is operating with this type of money. And specifically, the constraint is that for almost every single dollar or euro in circulation, there is an equivalent debt plus interest. Like when private banks make loans, they actually create new money and they create an equivalent uh, debt plus interest. So that means, of course, that the debt is always growing beyond the money supply. And
Mhm.
that's why almost every government in the world is in enormous debt.
Mhm.
That's why debt is now more than 3 times sort of actual global money. And that's why everyone feels short of cash. That's why there's this giant squeeze on households, on individuals, on companies, and on governments because the money has to grow in order to keep servicing that debt. It basically puts the entire global economy on a treadmill, and it slowly dials up the speed.
Mm.
And this leads us to behave in ways that are more selfish, more greedy, more short term, more unethical. Um, in the same way that if you're speaking to somebody who has a mortgage on their house and they're struggling to pay it, they're going to be desperate to do whatever they can not to lose their house. And if that means chopping down the last tree or fishing the last fish, then they'll do it because they don't want to lose their house, and nobody wants to lose their house. We've effectively placed the entire global economy in that person's position.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, of course, there's always someone somewhere who's willing to do something unethical for money, because if not, they, metaphorically speaking, lose their house. And that could be an individual, could be a government. And this is literally why everyone talks about growth, 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 GDP, GDP, GDP. It's not because humans are necessarily evil, selfish bastards. It's because we've created a context where you kind of have to be if you're not going to get blown away by a tidal wave of debt.
Yeah.
And so that's just not the way things have to be. And you can create different monetary systems which operate on different principles, which are issued by different bodies under different conditions. And there's a huge amount of theory about this, which is probably beyond the scope of us to talk about. This can be done in a small kind of local way, in the way like SANUSPLANET is doing it, with like a little community of people who want to do things differently. But it can also be done in a top-down governmental way, which is what we sort of badly need if we're going to get out of this hole that we dug ourselves.
I'm so much with you. And it's important. That's why I said this before, and I mentioned this before, how I was looking at money first when I didn't understand it completely, totally. I did not understand anything about it. Today, I'm still far away from understanding it, but I got into it much more because I started to question myself, why do I do what I do? When I started, while I was traveling the world, protecting the forest and planting cobbles and all of these things. So I started to also question, why do other people do what they do? Why do poachers poach? Why? What is it? Are people really bad, or what is behind? And when I started really to be honest to myself, listening and watching and asking questions, talking to the people who are doing, for example, poaching, then I found out, whoa, it is... like, let's say the money system is involved, but also in general, let's say poverty. Let's call it poverty. Poverty. We keep people poor. That's kind of a part of the system we created in this world. And what would I do in that situation if I could not manage to feed my family? If I could not keep my house, like you said. So what would I do? Probably, I live vegan. Probably I would go out and kill an animal to survive. I don't know. I have never been in that situation. And we have to learn to look from different perspectives, not just from the perspective where we are in right now, but also from the other person's perspective, to understand why people do what they do. And then I learned exactly where the problems are created. There is the solution, if we start to understand it. And then I came also to the topic of, okay, let's connect the money system, whatever we can do with it, let's connect it to do something good. And that's why I am so much on fire for this project that we are working on. And that's why I love what you are doing. Do you want to share us a little bit how the Native Square, how Native works, how people who are listening right now can get involved? If they are like now saying, wow, this sounds really amazing, I want to be part of that. How can they get in touch with you? How does that work? I will put all of the links in the show notes, so that's not a problem. But what do they have to do?
Yeah, well, it's very simple. I mean, literally go to nativesquared.com. and you can pay to protect square of rainforest for 40 years. It's a one-off payment, and it costs you £5 or €5.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. You will get a map where you can see the square that you've protected. You'll also get a dashboard which tracks your impact across carbon, biodiversity, and social impact as well. So again, it's a few clicks. It's a standard Stripe checkout. We've tried to make it as easy as possible for you to do that. And yeah, that one-off payment is enough to protect that square of rainforest for 40 years. It's more than a logging company would pay for the same area. And this is the threat in this local forest, which is in the Solomon Islands. The threat is largely legal logging. It's, communities with, as you say, no other resource other than the forest. And they have an intrinsic connection to this forest. It's part of their home. It's their identity. And yet they're living in poverty, and they're getting offers all the time from logging companies, and there's no one else making another offer.
Yeah.
And so that's essentially what you do when you buy a native square in this first project. We ensure that we can make a better offer than the logging company. So all that economic pressure, all that political pressure goes away. Simple as that. But yeah, I want to pick up on something else you said, because I think it's really interesting on it's about abundance and scarcity. Like we actually live on a planet which is completely abundant.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's more than we need.
Yeah.
This whole idea that population is going to grow exponentially and then there's a finite planet, like actually populations are starting to kind of slow down and like, developed economies, people tend to have less children. So actually like there is more than enough on this planet to sustain the human
Everyone.
race.
Yeah.
It's just that like we are we're pursuing growth for the sake of growth. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a really interesting, and this is because our money supply is scarce. There's not enough money in the world in order to meet the debt. There's plenty of stuff, there's plenty of materials,
Mm-hmm.
there's plenty of technology, food, land, if we treat it well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that like the money supply is not there. And I'll give you like a really concrete example of this. Like in Ghana, for example, that's where it's one of the centers in Africa where like a huge amount of clothes donated
Mm-hmm.
from the West end up, right?
Yeah.
And they end up, first of all, they end up like polluting all the beaches, and they end up like also destroying the kind of local textile industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they've got all this kind of free, cheap Western clothes, then no one's going to buy kind of locally made stuff. And no one wants half of this stuff, so it ends up just chucked up on the beach anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not that there isn't enough clothes.
Yeah.
There's plenty of clothes, but actually what Ghana doesn't just want the clothes, it wants growth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's like, there you go. It's like money's supposed to be this thing that we use to buy stuff that we need, like clothes. But actually, because the Ghana economy needs to grow, clothes isn't going to do it. They need a growing textile industry. And this is the point. It's like you can't pay interest with clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we need the money. We need the money. We need the money. And that's an absurd situation. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
actually what we need is a home. We need food. We need like meaningful things to do with our time.
Mm-hmm.
We need community, and we need a bit of extra money for like, I don't know, luxuries, like whatever, a laptop, books, music, this kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right? But like
Yeah.
that's what we need.
Yeah.
But like the economy, if we all had everything that we need, the economy would put us in a horrible, we'd still lose our home, right? Because
Yes.
the economy is not growing. So
Yes.
it's like this is the point. Like we've gone through this phase as humanity, which is like kind of almost like adolescent growth phase, and debt's been great for fueling that. It's been great for getting us to this point, where we have all this crazy technology, where we can live on a planet with 8 billion people. We have that potential now,
Mm-hmm.
but now we need to transition to a more equilibrium sort of adult phase of humanity, where
Mm-hmm.
rather than just like growth for the sake of growth, it's like qualitative types of growth. Certain things we want to grow, but not just like growth for the sake of growth. Like if I have enough clothes, I don't need a textile industry. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Um,
You cannot even wear it. I mean, like the whole closet, or how it's called, in your back in your room is full of clothes, and you don't even have the time to wear this all. So I know this so good. I like this example that you say. It bring me also, there was a picture coming up. I know the beaches in Ghana. I know how it looks like. It's horrible. If people would know what's happening, they might rethink their consumption on clothes in a different way. But at the same time, I see also the consumption of animals. Like let's not go too deep in that topic now, but we grow a lot of food for giving it to animals that we then kill for the sake of throwing them away. Like the most of it we throw away in the end. Like all of this cycle is so out of control, and we have to come back to feel again who we really are. And then we come back to the question that I asked you at the beginning, that you were answering. The moment when you started to do something for this world was the moment when you started to ask who you are. Well, who's the me in me? Who's that person, right? And I think if we get there, we definitely, step by step, it's sometimes a bit slow, but it goes towards a direction where we really have to go to questioning ourselves. Who are we? Why are we here in this world? What am I standing for? What are my values? And all of these questions. I think maybe because I'm surrounded with a lot of like-minded people, I have the feeling it is happening a lot at the moment, that people are starting to open up. The consciousness is growing. I have this feeling, but sometimes then I get to a point, to some places where I feel like, okay, right now I'm not surrounded by the people that are like-minded like me, and I feel like really lost, and I feel like, oh shit, nobody understands what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. So like both of these things at the same time, right? Like for example, I was in a vegan surf camp for a few years in the summer, gave a lot of speeches there as well. And there in the camp itself, everybody was eating just vegan food. They didn't have been vegan at home, maybe, but some, yes. So you felt the whole world is vegan, yeah, and I felt happy. And then you went out of the camp and you felt like, oh no, shit. No, it's not. So like you are confronted by these two different realities that are happening at the same time. How do you feel that, or how is your experience, or yeah, your feeling around that topic? Do you see the change coming, happening, or do you see, oh, it should go much faster? Or what is your feeling about that?
Yeah, I think like it's collapse and transformation at the same time, right?
Mm,
Like the cocoon, the caterpillar is most kind of greedy and yeah, selfish just before it turns into the butterfly. So it's like, and on a kind of consciousness level, it's like, yeah, the worse things get, the better they get. Like the more dire the situation on planet Earth, the bigger a mirror it is to ask ourselves, hang on, who are we? What are we doing? And I think so. It's like it's definitely like we're in the washing machine. We're in the sort of turbulence, like moment, right? And like there are people who study civilizations throughout history, and like they do have these kind of like patterns, right? Where there's kind of steady state period, and then there's like enormous turbulence, and then one of two things happen. There's either a civilization collapse or it emerges into a higher order of complexity. And like we have all the tools to emerge into a higher order of complexity. Like we've got all these technologies that like can lead to, like us living on this planet in abundance, in harmony with nature, in harmony with each other. All the potential is there. But there's no guarantees, of course, like it's all to play for. And I think like it's just in this moment where we really need to, not like flip our lids basically and just like try and remember that we are actually all this one evolutionary journey. Like we are this one sort of like planet that is exploring itself, it's evolving, that we've grew out of this planet, that it's part of who we are. And if you want to go more kind of cosmic and conscious, that the whole universe is just this one consciousness exploring itself, and like
mhm,
that we really all have the divine within us, and that like we are fundamentally at our very, very deepest core of identity, we are this one thing. And like, yeah, I mean, it's nothing that hasn't been said before, but it's like, yeah, it's just like reminding ourselves of that unity, reminding
mm,
ourselves that like despite our like surface level differences, that we're all very similar. um and just trying to kind of like hold on, I guess, like through the chaos.
mm.
um and then I think, there's we have enormous potential, but like it's
Mm.
no there's no doubt like it's quite tough out there at the moment.
Yeah,
It's
right.
pretty
You
brutal.
feel that too. I feel like,
Oh my
okay,
God, yeah,
yeah, right.
absolutely, it's been
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah, sometimes brutal,
Brutal.
sometimes beautiful, that I break out in tears because I feel like, wow, it's so beautiful in this world. I wish others would understand what I feel right now. And then I see people understanding it and crying with me. And then I see the opposite and I feel like, what the heck? How hard is this to understand and to keep balanced between these two worlds? Because you cannot choose all the time to just be surrounded with the people that get it already. If you want to help the others to also get it, you have to get to them. You have to get there. You cannot, yeah, you can wish and visualize and send energy out there that people understand. But if you really want to create change, you have to be in the places where the change is really needed and where it's needed to be supported. Like I question myself, wow, why did I come to this world as a human? Because I love animals more. I say that very out loud and openly. I love animals. I just love them because they're so pure, they're so real, they're different. But I love people too. It's not like that. But sometimes I ask myself, I would prefer to be an animal because they get me. And they all get me. And then I see, no, I came here as a human because I think that the human species needs people helping in some way, in their own way, everyone in their own way. And probably that's my role here, to be a human, to help us as humans to create some change and to see that. Yeah, I don't know. It might sound weird, but that's
No,
my
no,
mind.
it doesn't sound weird to me. I mean, that's how I feel. I
Mm,
think like, yeah, I think it's these two things, like being a human, right? Like we have this like divine within us, and then also we're very human and limited, right? So it's like don't lose sight of the
mm,
divinity within you and within each other.
mm,
And there's obviously like that's a practice, right? It's not just like saying that. Like there's like, you know, you need to practice that. You need to, I don't know, whether it's meditation or yoga or dance or ritual or being immersing yourself in nature, you know, like whatever it is for you that like helps you like tap into that sacredness within you. There's that. And there's also the fact that like, okay, I also accept that I'm human and I'm limited and like sometimes I want to eat a big steak. Like, and you know, and like that's like personally in my journey at least, like that's been like also realizing like that's okay too if I feel like having a steak. Like I'm not perfect, like, and that for me is like, you know, like accepting that part of myself that I'm not always going to reach up to my standards. And that goes individually, also goes collectively, right? Because I think sometimes if you put all this like enormous pressure on yourself to be perfect, then it also leads you to feel quite bitter and angry when other people aren't meeting you there. And then that leads to this kind of judgmental place. And then there's this polarization. I mean, we saw this like massively with the progressive left over the last like 10, 20 years, like this constant like sort of like let's say like moral perfectionism, like on various different topics, which like people were like bending over backwards and feeling super guilty, and then like it just led to this quite toxic space where we ended up like judging each other and canceling each other, and then we alienated like most of the population, and then they all voted for Trump, and it's like no, we need to like somehow like allow ourselves to be a bit imperfect individually and collectively, and to realize, to almost like have a bit of sympathy for where we're at as a species. Like this is quite hard what we have to do right now, like as a species. We have to unite as a species, and we have to like bring everyone with us, and we also have to like create a world, like live in harmony with 8 billion people on the planet, and we need to like transition out of extractive systems, and like that's a lot. Like that's a big old task, and it's going to be hard, and we're not going to get it right every time, and we're going to make mistakes, and like we're also living in systems which do incentivize and bring out the worst in us sometimes. Like they do make us act in greedy, selfish, stupid ways. And that's like partly because that's, you know, that's within all of us. We all have this side, but it's also partly because we're living in systems that like actively feed that side constantly. And there's always this like powerful laser focused marketing tools, which are like really trying to like push that button.
Sneak
like, no,
in
not
all
enough.
the time.
You do need to buy this thing actually. And it's like, you know, so it's like just cut ourselves some slack actually.
Yeah, I get this so much. Yeah, I have the feeling have been at the point where I really put so much pressure on myself that I felt, okay, this is not healthy anymore. I was like, the vegan is because I have seen too many things in the world that I just don't want to support. So that's quite easy for me, and that's very I go for it because I love it, but not pointing fingers on others that are not. But I want to share it's possible if you want to. But I put myself into, okay, vegan, organic, plastic free, let's say local, and everything that was possible, fair. So I found myself in a space where I felt like I will probably starve to death if I go on with that. So that's not working out. So I have to open up a little bit for not being that label and that label and that on top as well, because that's just not possible, and it's just too much. It makes pressure. And that's one of the topics that I always want to share with people. Don't pressure yourself too much. Go step by step. Try to do what you can. And that's what you said before, also for the companies. And for this whole topic of, sometimes people call it greenwashing. No, if a company wants to do something good, but they don't have the possibility to go somewhere and protect the forest for themselves, why shouldn't they pay someone doing it for? And I think that is a beautiful way to give everyone the possibility to be part of the change that we need so much in their own way. That's always important, that everybody knows, okay, I can do this, but not this, so I do this. It's fine. So do what you can, and don't put too much stuff on your shoulders, because otherwise you probably lose it. And I know very good what happens when people lose it. Can go very far. So yeah.
That's exactly, and it's exactly what we're trying to do, right? Like, I mean, our subscription packages for individuals go as low as like €5 a month, £5 a month. So it's like, it's not enormous, but like actually you can still protect this much rainforest every month. And that's quite cool, you know? And that's like cool. It's not, doesn't mean that you're carbon neutral and you're squeaky clean. It just means that you're doing something that's tangible and real, and it makes a difference. And you know, like, none of us can solve these problems on our own, but like small contributions from everyone. You know, it's been said like, what we don't need is like like one perfect activist. What we need is like 8 billion
Billion.
imperfect activists.
Exactly. That's always what I say too. You don't have to make everything perfect. Everybody can go one step towards some kind of sustainability, think about themselves a bit more and question things that we do every day. And if everybody is doing that, we achieve so much more, as if one person would make everything perfect. That will anyway not be enough. So we have to divide it a little bit so everybody can bring a little bit of change in this world. Um, how, like when people sign up on your page, they make a normal payment of $5, €5 per month, or £5 probably, pounds per month, and it's like a annual subscription, probably, I can imagine. And everybody from
Monthly,
our, sorry, monthly.
monthly per month.
Per month, but they pay once a year or every month separately.
At the moment, every month separately, we'll probably
Mhm.
do like annual billing as well.
Mhm.
You can also just do a one-off purchase. So I mean, we work with companies as well, and sometimes they buy squares of rainforest to reward their employees, or they
Mhm.
tie it to their sales. So every time they get they bring on a client. Like we just signed a partnership with a company called Canopy, who helps
Mhm.
other companies to like find cloud computing services, and they essentially save their money. Okay, so 1% of the savings that they get for their clients, they'll use that
Mhm.
to protect for us. So there's all these different models.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're an individual, the subscription starts from just as little as five a month.
I am thinking about and I'm looking forward to finding out a way how we can connect our projects as well. There are possibilities, I know that. And let's find out about that more when we talk later and in other talks or like private talks to find out we can do. And then we will definitely share that information with our community as well. Is there something that I didn't ask that is very important for you to share? Is there something that I didn't go into? Because I know that you do many projects. You also make a podcast. Share us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah,
Would be great
sure.
to.
Actually, it's good timing because I've just started to make series two. The podcast called the Conscious Evolution Podcast. It was on, I think it was, no, it wasn't on Lufthansa, but it was on Iberia and British Airways in-flight entertainment for a bit.
Really amazing.
Um,
That's really cool. How did
yeah,
you get
yeah,
there? That's amazing.
yeah. Through a friend, it was a funny connection, but they liked it and they ended up coming back for the whole series.
Hmm.
Um, but essentially, it starts with a question, which is like, what do humans find most meaningful? And then it's kind of an exploration of what are all the things that we find really meaningful, because it turns out like if you pursue happiness, like it says in the founding declaration of America, like the pursuit of happiness, like actually that's not doesn't work. Like if you pursue happiness, you don't end happy. So
Yeah.
you have to get there indirectly, strangely. And one of the best things to do, according to all the psychology research, is to do what you find meaningful. And if you
Mhm.
pursue what you find meaningful, then happiness tends to come as like a byproduct.
Mhm.
So then the question is like, okay, what do we find meaningful? And broadly speaking, you can put them into sort of three categories or buckets. You could slice them up a different way, but I put them into three categories or buckets, which is like generally like cooperation, being something part of something larger than you are, helping others, contributing to the planet. Um, Creativity. So yeah, bringing that which is unique within you out into the world. Um, and then and that doesn't have to just be an artist or a singer or something. You can also be like an entrepreneur. You can also be a scientist with coming up
Mhm.
with a new idea to test. Or
Mhm.
so there's all sorts of ways you can be creative. And then the third one is transcendence, and that's can be a religious, spiritual thing, but
Mhm.
really it's just about becoming more than what we were.
Mhm.
It could be breaking my marathon record, or lifting more weights, or it could be just pushing myself, challenging myself, growing. Right?
Out of
We
your
all have
comfort
this.
zone, growing,
Yeah,
yes. Mm.
we all have this like really deeply wired into us. And so then the question becomes like, why these three things and what do they have to do with human evolution? And it turns out they have something very specific in common, which says an awful lot about evolution as a whole.
Mm.
And it kind of gives us a compass on where we need to go. Like it gives us a really clear idea of like where evolution has come from and where it's going, and what role we need to play in that right now.
Mm.
I won't give the spoilers, but
No,
if you're
people
interested in,
listen to the podcast, everybody.
yeah,
I will share also
I
the
cover
link to that.
cover a lot of the top. If you're interested in any of the topics that we brought up today, then I either have already addressed that in the podcast or
Mm.
I will in the next couple of series. So it's all there.
That's amazing. Everybody who wants to listen to that podcast, please down here in the show notes, there will be the link. So click on it and subscribe and whatever people can do and listen to it. And the things that you just said, there are so many things in my mind that I would like to connect. I mean, we get kind of to the end of our podcast. I can imagine we will make another podcast, a second one. But to round this up today, thank you, first of all, for your time, for everything that you have been sharing with us. This is so much good knowledge, so much good insights, so many good possibilities for everybody also to be part of Native. Sign up there, be part of it, and support this project, support people that are creating some changes or that are giving you the possibility to be part of that change. And the last minute of this podcast, I would like to give you to share let's say your words for today, like let's say your I'm missing the word in English, so I'm blubbering around here. Your words that you want to share with our community, like not what they can do now, but what you want to share, like your big vision of this world, your big vision, your last word. So I pass it on to you because otherwise I'm blubbering around. I'm searching the word in English. I can't find it. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think the most important thing we all need to remember is kind of what I touched on earlier, of like really remembering, or not just remembering, and not just like taking it because I say so or anyone else says so, but actually experiencing for yourself the fact that we are actually just this one consciousness exploring itself. Like that sounds quite kind of kooky and out there, but this is an experience you can have for yourself. And I know this because I've had this experience, and there's various practices and traditions that can help you to have these experiences for yourself. But I think like if more of us can have that insight or that knowledge that despite all the difficult stuff going on, we're still this one consciousness exploring itself. It's this roller coaster ride that we've decided to go on. This whole process of evolution is this process of growth, because God becomes limited in the physical world in order to experience the joy of that like growth and that change and that like process. And that like if we can kind of come from that place, then it does make the roller coaster ride a little bit easier to navigate. Like the downs are not so terrible, and the highs we take a little bit more lightly, and like ultimately we have a lot more like tolerance for each other. And I think like that's going to be the focus of the next series, is like really helping people to see that and experience that for themselves, because I think that ultimately is like that's the space that we all need to be in if we're not going to tear each other apart,
Yes.
which is what seems to be happening right now.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for these words and for this rounding it up. Everything that we have said today, it all fits into these words. Yeah, thank you for everything that you do, for being here, for sharing your time with us, or for having shared it with us. And I wish you the best of luck for your project. I know that we will meet each other again and that we will be connected and find out how we can support each other even more in the future. That's my goal, to connect with people like you. And yeah, let's see what the future brings. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this podcast. I am very happy that you're here. And I wish you beautiful 2 weeks, and see you in the next episode in 2 weeks. Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.